I'm First Sergeant Floyd, Missouri National Guard.
I'm Sergeant Christia, Missouri National Guard.
And what we're doing here today is just sort of kicking it around, discussing points of leadership, tenets of leadership, challenges that leaders face in the military. And we're just going to sort of flesh out those points, talk about some case studies, how you would handle certain things, and it's going to be pretty informal. So we're going to get started and start talking about these points.
All right, next question. Mentoring versus firing. So, as leaders, we are constantly pushed to grow and develop our subordinate troops and our subordinate leaders. But there's a point, there's a balance. When do you cut the cord and say, man, this is just not for you, let's figure out something else for you? Because in the military, we can't fire, you can't fire your troops. Though we wish we could fire some of our troops. We can't. So how long do you go before you just quit mentoring and give up and say, hey, let's try something else for you? Or maybe do you never do that? What are your thoughts, First Sergeant?
I don't think you ever give up on mentoring, because as long as you're in that person's sphere, then you can act as a mentor. I think what you're talking about is direct instruction.
Yes.
If the person just isn't picking up what you're laying down as far as whatever class you're teaching, then there is a point at which you call it, and that person can no longer be a part of the organized class. They need one-on-one tutoring to bring them up to the point where they can pass the test or be a part of the class. It's like if you go to the range and somebody just can't qualify. Well, sure, oftentimes we have enough rounds that they can do more than one iteration. But there's going to come a time when the sun goes down or we run out of bullets and the person hasn't qualified. That's a fact. So they come back again and try it again after some remedial training.
I want to give an example. Like at the MMB, we have like the Spark team that goes in first, and one of the key components that makes our unit successful is that we have to be able to establish and break down a command post and do like jump talks, where we go forward, set up the command post, break down the command post, and we kind of keep moving forward with the infantry, if you will. But there have been some individuals who just aren't good at it, even though by paragraph and line they're slotted to be in the forward element. They just aren't as good as other people. So what I'm going to challenge you with is, how long do you keep trying? Like, how do you manage the benefit of the group by sacrificing the individual? Right? Like say, hey, I'm going to get him out or her out and put another troop in there for the benefit of the group. Maybe not necessarily in an education sense, but to accomplish the mission, the commander's intent that he or she has given you.
Well, we're in a situation like that right now in my unit, where these decisions are being made right now. You have to, everybody's going to be different and have different thresholds of where you make that decision, but where you, as an experienced leader or the leader with the intuition that you have, see that more harm than good is being caused by this person remaining in this position, you have the authority. You can get your commander's backing to re-slot that person, just put them in a different job and move somebody else into that other job. You can explain to the people why it's happening, but those are the kind of hard decisions that have to be made for the good of the group. So maybe it goes, I can't say it goes 1 drill, 2 drill, 3 drills, or if you're on AT, it goes 1, 2, 3 days into the AT. It's whatever the op tempo of whatever it is you're doing. So it's up to the individual to make that decision. It's case specific, but there is a point at which you say this person is no longer effective in this role and is harming other people because you're providing a bad example, you're providing bad instruction, and the mission suffers.
Yeah, I think it's a hard decision. It's like in the non-military world, if you're a boss and you got to fire somebody, you got to terminate them, even though you like them and you care about them and you want them to be able to support their family. But you have to weigh the benefit. You have a loyalty to the group and to the company and to the business. I think as leaders, we have a loyalty to the mission, and we have, the NCO creed, mission first, troops always. We have that loyalty to reach the commander's intent, and it's hard to balance. When do I, take the loyalty to the individual and say that is second to the loyalty of the mission, and how do you explain that? That's just it's a hard conversation, I think, for many.
It would be. You just sit the person down and just reasonably explain it to them. And you have to consider that everybody's over 18, everybody's an adult. Everybody's been through basic training in AIT, so this isn't their first day in the Army or in front of a supervisor. So that level of professionalism should at least carry you through that conversation.
Yes.
And if you want to, you just have another leader or soldier in the room. You have the commander in the room if you feel that that's comfortable as a witness or just a third party.
Yeah, I think, and we've talked about this earlier, is I think what's ultimately important is that you always relate everything back to the commander's intent. I think it's very important if I'm, for example, one of your NCOs and I'm not meeting the standard, you're communicating not only the standard, but the importance of why meeting the standard is there. And I think what a lot of leaders get in trouble with is they say, things like, you're crappy at PT and you're lazy, so go get better. A better way is to explain why meeting the physical standard is important in accomplishing the mission that you have and relate it to the bigger picture. Or as Simon Sinek says, start with why. Explain why and the commander's intent of meeting, even if it's the smallest standard, how that affects them and how it affects the greater whole. And I think we'll see positive results of performance or growth, and maybe not as much conflict that you'd have to manage if you have to move somebody out of a slot for whatever reason. Yeah?
Yeah, that's a good point. I agree.
Interesting points. So I wonder what these guys think. So if you can comment, what do you think? When's the right point to mentor versus fire? And how do you manage that conversation? How do you say, hey, you're not right?
Another point is know what mentoring means, so you can make an educated comment. It just so happens I have a video on what mentoring means.
Here. Cool.